Well, regular listeners will know that it's always a pleasure to say hello to Stephen Fry on a regular basis. This time we can actually say it in the flesh. Hello, Stephen Fry.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm really well and very pleased to be here in the flesh.
And a very exciting BAFTA theme. By the way, congratulations on getting married and a wonderful day, I imagine. It was rude not to mention it right at the very beginning. So.
Well, that's sweet of you, and it was a wonderful day, and it's been a wonderful day every day since so far. I think the honeymoon, as they call it, is still on. I haven't yet had that honeymoon is over feeling, where we haven't shouted at each other or anything like that.
So you recommend married life and
hugely wonderful,
everything that you wanted it to be.
It really is.
Anyway, sorry, yes, I should have mentioned that right at the very beginning. A big BAFTA weekend coming up. Is it 10 years that you've been doing this?
It is 10 years, 10 years tenure, and thrilling to think back actually to I think it was 2001, the first one I did because I had 3 years off when Jonathan Ross took over. How things have changed in a way. I mean, they obviously haven't in the most basic sense that people make films and they're good. We hope they're good, and they're rewarded by BAFTA members for making them. And I think the thing that is the same is that the pictures that get nominated are ones that need it. You know what I mean? The real reward you get, the award you get in the film business is money, box office money, and you don't need any other award. And the kind of films that win BAFTAs and indeed Oscars are the kind that don't actually make huge inroads to the box office. Sometimes there's an exception, but most of them are films that you'd be really thrilled if people went to see because they're not going to make hundreds of millions of dollars or indeed even tens of millions of dollars. Grand Budapest Hotel, Boyhood, things like that, Foxcatcher. I won't say they're minority films because I think I would urge people to go and watch the whole load. You know, try and make a habit of always going to see the BAFTA nominees every year. You really couldn't do better. It's great to see films that you might otherwise not, especially Best British Film category. I think wonderful things like Under the Skin, films that will divide a lot of people. Some people might find it disgusting, but I think it's great because it's unusual and it's original and it's beautifully shot and the music's fantastic. And that's true of Grand Budapest Hotel. I think it's admired and got so many nominations, so many BAFTA nominations, because it's just so wonderfully executed and so unusual. And that's what I like to see in movies myself.
It sounds though there's almost like a campaigning edge to the BAFTAs, which would be missing in the Oscars.
I think there's an element of that, to be honest. Yes, I think there's a huge sense amongst BAFTA members who comprise those who vote, with the single exception of the Rising Star Award, the Newcomer Award, which is members of the public. There's a great sense that that we want people to keep going to cinemas, and I know it's something you and Mark are very keen on, is to encourage people to see films in cinemas. It's a great experience, and for all that you can have wonderful equipment at home that allows you to watch a movie in really high definition and sometimes with a really big screen, a projector or whatever, there's nothing like watching it in the dark with strangers.
Are you, just as an aside, we have our code of conduct on this programme, which we insist everyone, no eating, no drinking, no rustling, no kicking the seat in front of you. Are you an impatient viewer? If you are in the dark with lots of other people, are you tolerant or not?
I'm deeply intolerant of bad behaviour in cinemas. It brings out the most severe drill sergeant in me. I was once at a screening of Gone with the Wind, full, beautiful, lush colour screening of Gone with the Wind at the Curzon, which is a wonderful theatre in London. And I was the only person in the cinema when I arrived. And I thought, yes, I'm going to sit in the middle. It's going to be dark. And I'll just be alone with this amazing, sumptuous, with this, the Max Steiner score and and then a German couple walked in just as the music was beginning and sat behind me.
Of course.
And started to talk, explaining, morgen ist ein anderer Tag, tomorrow's another day. I'm sure you got that.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I turned round and yelled, I'll have to go do it off mic or I'll bend the needle. Schweig! Which sounds so extremely Hitlerian and means shut up, basically.
Could it be worse?
They jumped out of their skin and left, and I thought that was a good result.
And so, are you? Everyone knows that you love your technology and you love your bits of kit. Do you have strict rules about that? Do you turn your phone off when you go in? Have you ever texted or tweeted?
No, I've never texted or tweeted, and even people I love dearly, if they're sitting next to me and I see they are tweeting and the light comes on from their phone, I nudge them very hard in the ribs. And I'm one of those people who tends to shout things like, "The credits are an integral part of the film." When people stand up and the credits are rolling, I want to see every last thing of who wrote the song and, all those little things that come up at the end. And I get very, very annoyed.
And when you're standing at the podium running a show like the BAFTAs, do you notice if people have started, I'm just going to tweet at this point, I'm just going to send a little message. Are you just aware of that, or are you so absorbed in the moment?
I am aware of things sometimes of that nature, and very forgiving of it in the case of the BAFTAs, because I look at it this way. There are, let's say there are 1,000 people, just for the convenience of the arithmetic, at the Royal Opera House sitting there. 800 of those 1,000 will be quite nervous because they have a direct connection with an award that's coming up in the evening, or they are, it's their husband or wife or whatever who is nominated. And then as the evening moves on, 4/5 of that 800 are extremely annoyed because they won't have won the award. So you're playing to a hostile room, essentially, towards the end. And the 5th who have won an award are wanting to text their mother and their husband and all the other people. And so you can easily lose your audience. And to me, the most important trick of an award ceremony of this kind is just to get on with it. And actually, better than 5 fabulous jokes are no jokes and real speed. And people will thank you for that.
Any awards list, any awards show is always, obviously people say, oh, you made the wrong choice, you made the wrong decision, there has been a snub. What do you make of this list? I know you're our host and you're going to take us through, but do you think it broadly reflects the state of cinema in this country?
I do. There's a sort of joke you can make about how an award winner will say, this award means so much to me because it's voted for by my peers, by the BAFTA Academy, who are filmmakers, and that's why it means so much. And then the next week they'll be going, this award means so much because it's voted for by members of the public. The fact is they're always pleased to get it. But the fact that it's BAFTA members who are, you can only be a member of BAFTA if you work in film or television, and that gives you your vote, means that I suppose they are looking at slightly different things from members of the public. If the members of the public voted for the films of the past year, it would probably be a different list. And it's not to say one is right or wrong. I think, it's good to have awards that reflect both. There are a few omissions that I noted when the nominations were announced. I was there at BAFTA. Timothy Spall, for example, I thought that was strange that he was not nominated for his wonderful performance as Mr. Turner. And I thought the film Selma was really good and would probably get recognised, and I was surprised that it didn't. But then you never know, you see. It might be that each of those was just 2 votes away from being nominated. It's not that I saw something that was nominated that didn't deserve it. I really thought everything that was nominated, I could see, oh, yes, that was a tremendous performance, or gosh, that was a wonderful film. So it's a really tricky business, and there is that awful word snub that is used, and when it comes to something like Selma, of course, the snub is particularly hurtful, I should imagine, because it's about such an important subject.
David Oyelowo did say, as far as the controversies is concerned, that the place of British actors in this country is getting worse. Do you have any sense?
British black actors,
British black actors
of colour,
in this country, that the situation is worse for them than it used to be. Do you get any sense of that, or you pick up on that?
I think he's probably. He'll know better than I do, obviously, but I suspect he's right. And one of the problems is that roles for black actors in this country, say Afro-Caribbean, which is the largest percentage of black actors in this country, is that so many of the roles are likely to be historical. They're about to be set in the civil rights era or set in the slave era. Or if they're contemporary, they'll be set in a very urban environment. And selling British urban films abroad is just not easy. I'm not excusing it, but it really isn't. I did a documentary series, or contributed to a documentary series that Vladimir Pozner, who's a Russian TV presenter, did about England. England, not Britain, England. And he said to me, he said, nobody in Russia is interested in the cities in the modern world of England. Nobody. They want butlers, they want country houses, they want the royal family, they want Rolls Royces. This is what they want to see. Anything else, they're not interested. Fact. Deal with it. And that's what I'm afraid is the fact. Downton Abbey is a fact. You may say, oh, but please let there be something more gritty and urban and oh, I'm afraid nobody cares. They don't care. If they want that, they're going to go to America. And that's why Idris Elba was in The Wire, and that's why actors like he and so many of these brilliant British actors are going to find jobs in America, because ordinary urban Americans' tales are very popular. But ordinary American British tales, I'm afraid nobody cares.
One of the films that will get a lot of attention, I'm sure will win a hatful of stuff at the weekend, is The Imitation Game. Benedict Cumberbatch was on the show a few months ago, and obviously we were talking about Alan Turing, a man you have talked about for many, many years. And you have a campaign with Benedict, not just to right the wrong of what happened to Alan Turing, but to the other, is it 40,000 gay men?
Yes.
Who were prosecuted. What is the state of that? And I think you're campaigning to get Turing on the £10 note. I mean, how is that going?
Yes, I have, as you rightly say, I've admired Turing for many, many years, ever since really the secrecy laws were lifted on the Enigma story. And I read the first book about it that came out, Breaking the Code, I think was the, and I just was blown away by the story. And then when I read about what happened to Turing, was just deeply upset that such a great hero, someone who contributed so incredibly, perhaps more than any other individual after Churchill, to the winning of the war, could have been consigned to such a terrible fate. And so Harvey Weinstein and members of the production company that were behind The Imitation Game thought, yes, it was a good thing that Turing was pardoned, and he was pardoned for having broken a law that most people see as cruel and vile, in fact, and just dreadful. But why should he be the only one pardoned? If he's pardoned, then that creates a precedent that is a very reasonable one, that everybody else who was chemically castrated or sent to 2 years in prison, others who committed suicide indeed, they should be pardoned. Their families still remember them. 15,000 of them are still alive, and many of their stories are really, really heartbreaking. And so there is a campaign, there's a petition that you can go to. And we hope that whichever government there will be in a few months' time, after May at least, will seriously consider this. I think it would be a wonderful thing. And
one final thing, Stephen, just while you're with us and before you go, I think you're in quite a few movies, or you appear to be recorded on the Internet Movie Database as having a number of movies that are on the way. Enjoyed you very much as the Master of Lake Town. What a fantastic role that was.
Yes, that was enjoyable.
In The Hobbit, you were clearly enjoying yourself enormously.
Incontinently.
Anything else?
Yes, I'm playing a little part for 3 days in Dublin. There's an adaptation of Jane Austen's child novel she wrote when she was 11 or 12, I think, called Love and Friendship, rather endearingly misspelling the word friendship, spelling it E-I rather than I-E. Yes. So that's the next thing I'm doing. Literally 4 days after the BAFTAs, I'll be flying off to do that. And then I'm filming, but that's for television, a documentary in Central America. I'll be in Belize and Guatemala and Honduras and El Salvador and Nicaragua and Costa Rica and Panama.
It's going to be a busy year.
It will be.
And I hope it's a fantastic success at the weekend. I think a lot of people look forward to the BAFTAs in the way they don't actually care about the Oscars.
Thank you.
The BAFTAs just seems to matter.
Thank you. And while you're saying care about, I just just to reiterate, when I say nobody cares about the stories of urban reality and black life in Britain, I don't mean I don't care, or that it's that they're, I just mean in box office terms, it's incredibly hard to convince the rest of the world to care about stories that are set there. I don't think it should be the case, and it's very important that we try and make stories that cover the whole spectrum of what it is to be alive now on this planet, wherever in the world. But obviously, as British people, it's our duty and our pleasure to make stories about life here and now, all races and all peoples and all faiths and all all colours and
all faiths
of
and those
the
of
human
none.
spectrum, and indeed those of none.
And if anyone wants to make a speech at the weekend thanking Almighty God, they might just want to glance at you first, just to see.
I'm very tolerant